You went where? And they were doing what? Oh man, no one's ever going to believe this. Excerpts from The Alien's Dictionary by David Hallamshire. Read by Karl. A note from the author's doctor. Since being here in the madhouse on planet Turu, the author has been treated with the utmost respect and mind-bending drugs. He's received daily attention and nursing, and it is, therefore, no fault of mine that he's written this book. He's not been well, you know. As his doctor, I feel I should point out that this place, Earth, is very likely to be a figment of his imagination. Aborigine. A person who lives in Australia and plays a didgeridoo. When Aborigines reach a certain age, they have to go on a walkabout. This does have a survival thing where they wander about in the outback trying to shake off documentary filmmakers. Aerobics. The name given to a series of exercises designed by doctors to boost their income. People who perform aerobics are called Jane Fonda, unless they're being referred to by people who don't perform aerobics, in which case they are called bloody stupid. The idea behind aerobics is to stretch the human body just beyond the point where it might return to normal. American. Someone comes from places called Puerto Rico, Italy, France, Mexico, Greece, and Mayflower. Americans live in a country called America because it's the only area of land big enough for them all. Americans are fanatical about money, freedom, and breasts. There's a term called the American Dream, which involves setting a pair of breasts free and giving them lots of money. All Americans are deaf. This is why they shout a lot. The loudest thing ever appeared on Earth was American. It was called a Here Comes Lucy. Antisocial. The type of person who won't join in when all of his friends are shouting, being crude, spilling drinks, and dropping their trousers. Strangely enough, this is also the word used to describe the people who do. Autobiography. The word used to describe a blow-by-blow account of the life of someone who just happened to become famous. Autobiography should always start with the words, I was born, or the first memory of my father. It should not be confused with a biography, which means the person concerned is too dead to write it themselves. Book. A collection of thoughts from inside someone's head that they want to put into someone else's head and make a lot of money at the same time. Books come in various sizes, but the most popular size is just big enough to not fit in your pocket. A perfect example of this is a thing called a pocket dictionary, which was named by a raving lunatic. Christ. They have a man who died on a hill with the cavalry, now known as Calvary Hill. Christ had 12 disciples called Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Genesis, Exodus, and a few others. He was buried in a tomb, but he didn't like it there, so he now lives in God's right hand. It is very spacious, full of people who have been to the eye of a camel. There's hardly anything boring on the TV. Christ is famous for coming back to life every Christmas. He used to be a Lamb of God, but is now the Savior, which just shows what hard work and dedication can do. He's made of bread. Curiosity. A disease that kills cats. It's a disease of the brain that causes the investigator part of the brain to start investigating what it is investigating. This then leads it to start inquiring about how the inquiring part of the brain can inquire about inquiring about the brain. The result is sudden total knowledge of the meaning of life, and the shock kills it. Dentist. A person who talks to patients when they aren't in a position to answer. This is a dentist's little joke. Dentists like little jokes because they get really depressed looking into people's mouths all day. Other jokes of dentists are, this won't hurt, and that'll have to come out. A lot of us people are frightened of the dentist because they think that any minute he's going to cause them immense pain by splintering their tooth with a grinding pair of pliers as he prises the blood-spattered goo remains of the root back and forth in the bleeding cavity in what is left of a shattered jawbone. This is quite irrational. Drunk. The state of mind developed from drinking too much alcohol. It causes humans to say things which aren't funny and then laugh a lot. It also causes them to find ugly people attractive. The theory behind this is quite simple. When the human's eyes focus and coordination are affected by drinking too much alcohol, it causes them to see faces that have 3 eyes, 2 chins, and a nose somewhere in the middle of their forehead. However, if the person being looked at already has 3 eyes, 2 chins, and a nose somewhere in the middle of their forehead, everything appears to be in the right place and they look incredibly attractive. This can lead to great embarrassment the next day. Another interesting side effect that humans develop when they drink too much is the ability to teletransport. Humans don't even know they can do this, because the symptoms of teletransporting are a blinding headache and a feeling of nausea, which is put down to a hangover. Yet thousands of humans each year leave a nightclub or party and then teletransport to the most prominent destination in their subconscious mind, usually home. They then spend the next day asking people how they got home. This is why it's dangerous for humans to get drunk after a sad love affair. The chances are very high that they will subconsciously teletransport to their ex-lover's house and make a complete ass of themselves. English. A collective of egomaniacs that used to run half the world. They only run a teensy part of it now, but don't tell them that because they get upset and start going on about empires and things. Film. A visual display that people pay money to see. The ones that most people pay money to see contain the following: a man with blue eyes, a woman with a beautiful body and chestnut hair, a building getting blown up, a car getting blown up, a person getting blown up, another building getting blown up, blood, even more things getting blown up. Films that do not contain most of these elements are full of people just talking to each other and are called Oscar nominations. Frankenstein. This is the name of a man who made a monster out of bits of men. The monster gets hit by lightning and says, "Nyah, nyah," which actually means, "Boy, am I hungry." He then goes out and kills a blind man because he is playing the violin. After that, he is set on fire whilst in a windmill, is set on fire while in a house, falls on himself for a bit, gets buried in ice, is set on fire again, gets a wife, meets a werewolf, and is set on fire. Then he grabs hold of a girl because lots of people are waving fire torches at him and shouting, "Hubbub, rhubarb." Then he climbs the tower and swings from the rope and throws the girl into the front row of the opera house just before the chandelier drops on the audience. Then he falls off a building and gets pierced by a large metal cross which makes her shrivel up and turn to dust except for his signet ring. And then he is set on fire. Gravity. The magnetic force that makes the ground come up and hit you on the head when you fall over. The good thing about gravity is that it always pulls things in the same direction. So if you do fall down, at least your friends will know where to find you. Hammer. A tool used by builders for farting their thumbs with. It is called a hammer because that is the sound a man makes when he hits his thumb with it. Hammer! A lot of hammers are also called bastard. Heart. A muscle in the human body that beats rhythmically so that humans know they're not dead. When it stops, they get very upset. Husky. A working dog with thick fur that likes sweating. These dogs are capable of staying out all night in sub-zero temperatures. The reason for this is they wait for everyone to go to bed and then build a fire. Intestine. 1. A long squidgy tube that food goes through. 2. A word used by sound engineers when checking microphones, usually followed by 1, 2, 3. Iodine. A bluish black liquid which was applied to wounds, so you realized the pain you were feeling before was absolutely nothing. Ivory. Hard white material that is used for making things that need to be made out of hard white material. It is grown in a place called elephants. Jumping. A method of lifting your legs up so the ground falls down and then comes up and hits you in the feet. Kangaroo. An animal that lives in Australia and has a pocket for keeping useful things in. Penknife, bits of string, credit card, baby kangaroos, etc., etc. Kiss. A method of showing affection when two people press their lips together. Kiss can lead to romance, marriage, chapped lips, or a punch in the throat, depending on who, when, and where. The sensation is supposed to be very pleasurable, but it doesn't do anything for me. Then again, I think it's supposed to do it with someone else to get the best effect. Male humans tend to kiss with their eyes open. This is because they try to remember who they're kissing. Knight. A man who wears protective armor and rides around a horse looking for trouble. Knight is generally referred to as Sir, which when you consider as sitting on a horse waving a sword about, is quite reasonable. Life. The bit humans get before they die. Compared with being dead, the life bit is very short. Humans have a strange attitude to this. Some say, it's only life. This is absurd, But I think it comes from getting the life bit first and the zillions of years of dead afterwards. Whereas they'd just been dead for a zillion years, they'd be jolly grateful to be alive. Lightning. A very bright electrical discharge from the sky to the earth. It goes in that direction because the earth is earthed. Lightning is particularly active when people are making monsters or rising from the grave. It can also be induced by sitting around old pubs and saying things like, "Ye not be going up the old castle, be you?" Lips. The pink line around the edge of a human's mouth so the tongue knows where to stop. Lizard. A reptile that lies around with its tongue hanging out. This is because it hasn't got any lips. Morris dancing. An old traditional dance to celebrate the harvest festival and male fertility. In fact, anybody's fertility. Morris dancing involves getting drunk and hitting each other with sticks. Geography teachers and off-duty ride police particularly enjoy this form of relaxation. Morris dancers have usually got little bell straps to their ankles. This is so that when they get drunk, they can shake bits of themselves and find out which way up they are. Mulberry bush. A type of tree that goes round and round and round on cold and frosty mornings. This is not to be confused with a Kate bush, which doesn't. Octopus. A floppy, useless thing that has to strap hundreds of sink plungers to its legs so it can move. Octopuses are mostly harmless, but have been known to attack submarines if they are traveling 2,000 leagues under the sea. Odd. Something out of the ordinary, like 3 nuns on a motorbike, 2 penguins playing poker, and a man with a harpsichord all sitting at the same table. And not one of them eating. Onward. The place where Christian soldiers go when they're marching off to war. This is usually done with the cross of Jesus going on before, so if they get lost, they have someone to blame. Optician. Someone who makes you look at things you can't see to see how well you can't see them. Opera. A musical event where a huge man shouts as loud as he can at a huge woman. Everything you see is then repeated by the people hanging around the background. I must leave you. He must leave, he must leave, he must leave, 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 leave. Must you go? Yes, I must. Yes, he must. Yes, I must. Yes, he must. Yes, he must. Yes, he must. Or he will miss his bus, bus, bus. Yes, he will miss his bus, bus, bus. I will miss my bus. Yes, you will miss your bus. He will miss his bus, 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 bus. Someone then starts dying and sings for half an hour while doing so. Then the audience claps at the fat lady and fling flowers at her, and then everybody goes home. Orgasm. A physical sensation similar to your brain and groin trying to swap places. And succeeding. Ostrich. A bird with no head that grows out of the ground. Owl. A bird that hangs around in woods at night going, hoo, hoo, hoo. Owls make this noise by clapping their hands together and blowing through their thumbs. Owls also have the ability to turn their heads to 360 degrees. They're such like hell, but they like showing off. Pantomime. 2 words to describe, but if you visit one, sit at the front because that's where all the sweeties land. Should you find you have no idea what's going on, there's a fair chance that it is behind you. Also, any worries about your sexuality because you fancy the prince is quite common, though thoughts about the pantomime horse should be reported to a psychiatrist immediately. Party. A gathering of people who do all the things they wouldn't do in their own home. Aliens should know that if there's nothing left to drink, they should look in the following places: the oven, for cider, the bread bin, for wine, and the toilet cistern, for whiskey. Fun things to do at Earth parties. Go into the garden and use their stellar transmitter to make your voice come through their stereo system. This is very, very funny. Police, come out with your hands up. Or you can try, "This is God speaking." Ask the man in the kitchen, surrounded by women, how his wife is. Get a friend to line his space pod in the back garden when there's only one person looking out the window. Then take off again before anyone else sees it. Photograph. A visual image captured on paper which can be dug out years later for everyone to laugh at. This is the favorite pastime of parents when their child brings home a new potential partner. Quack. A doctor shaped like a duck. Quadraphonic. A sound system designed by humans with 2 ears and the hope they will someday will come across aliens with 4 ears will tell them what it sounds like. Queensberry rules. A set of rules which, if followed, will ensure sudden deaths in a street brawl. Yours, usually. Rhubarb. A fruit used for making pies to force on people when they're full. Rhubarb is also a word used in early films by extras when they have to make a hubbub sound. It also means, there's the monster that killed my daughter, it's all Frankenstein's fault. We disagree with you and are going to wave our fire torches about to show our disapproval. Sanity. Something humans say that I tried to keep, although I've never seen anyone's collection. Snapshot. A photograph has been taken spontaneously and without any preparation. And looks it. Sonar. A device that pings at something and waits to see if it will ping back. This cannot not be confused with table tennis, which is pretty much the same. Storekeeper. Using a man called Frank or Stan who wears a brown overall and feels a deep personal loss whenever anything is taken out of the stores. To prevent this emotional stress, he will spend his life developing a number system that no one else understands. He can then spend his days happily counting things. The favorite phrases are, you haven't got a part number, it's more than my job's worth, this isn't true, and no. The best way to really upset a storekeeper is to ask him for something he's got, with the correct piece of paper, the correct signature, and the correct part number. If you can also point your arm to the hatch and say, those there, you will reduce him to tears. When Hitler was asked what he would rather be other than a world tyrant, he said he would rather like to be a storekeeper. Teddy bear. A cuddly toy you love so much as a child you refuse to throw it out. You loved it so much as a child that you ripped its arm off, bit its ear off, gouged its eye out, punched it in the stomach when you were being Superman, and threw it across the room in a fit of temper. But you still refuse to throw it out because you love it. Telegram. Way of scaring people to death, stop. When only wishing happy birthday, stop. Tradition. Some of the people have been drunk for so long they've forgotten why they're doing it, but they still do it because it's always been done. Underwear. The first thing checked at the scene of an accident. Ask any Earth Mother. It must be clean or the Earth Mother will never be able to hold her head up in public again. The fact that you have been run over is of little importance. It also be noted that the board at the end of a hospital bed is a chart with a detailed diagram of the parent's underwear at the time of accident. Unicorn. A horse has a corkscrew fastened to his head. This should not be confused with a moose, which has a hatstand fastened to his head, or an elephant, which is nothing like either of them. Vampire. A person who likes to bite humans' necks and suck blood from their bodies. Vampires object to people driving wooden stakes through their heart while they're trying to get a decent day's sleep. It's bad enough when someone plays loud music, so it's understandable they get a bit tetchy. It's interesting to note that vampires never bite ugly women. They only bite beautiful women with soft ringlets and a prominent cleavage. Quite right, too. Should you find yourself being run over by a horse-drawn hearse at 3 o'clock in the morning while taking a quiet stroll in the woods, it's quite reasonable to assume you have just encountered a vampire. Vampires enjoy hearse rallying immensely, especially at the dead of night with a full moon and dramatic music playing in the background. Woofer. A dog that sits inside a loudspeaker cabinet and makes sure everything sounds okay. This is not to be confused with a woofter, which is woolly and doesn't sit inside a speaker cabinet. If you should find a woolly woofter in your speaker cabinet, you're in for a very weird evening. Xylophone. A musical instrument that humans think they can play just because an octopus can. Yodel. A noise caused by trying to dislocate your throat and wrap your tongue around your head at the same time. This is usually done up mountains so as not to upset the neighbors. Yo-yo. A small toy that winds up and down a string and is used for smashing vases and irritating everyone nearby, because they want to have a go too. Zebra. A horse specially bred so people with black and white televisions can watch nature programs. Zen. The motion of looking into your own mind and finding that you aren't in. The end.